To understand what happens in the gut of someone with celiac disease, we first have to take a look at our digestive system and our immune system. When we eat, the food passes the esophagus, is broken down in the stomach, and emptied into the upper part of the gut called the duodenum. There it's mixed with digestive juice that further breaks down the food components and the nutrients in small fragments. To allow the small intestine to efficiently absorb the nutrients, it needs a large surface. To increase the surface, the small intestine is not a flat tube but folded and shows finger-like structures, called villi, which increase the surface. Here all digested nutrients, including gluten fragments, can be absorbed into the gut wall. The immune system, our body's police. Our immune system is very active in the gut. Different immune cells work together like a police control. They have to distinguish between friend and foe. Antigen-presenting cells take up any protein particles that come along with their little arms called HLA and present it to a T helper cell. This type of cell decides if the protein is from friend or foe. For example, food components are usually classified as harmless. But if a harmful pathogen invades the body, the T helper cell recognizes the invader and calls other immune cells to defend the body against the pathogen. After all pathogens had been cleared, the immune reaction is stopped. But what happens in celiac disease? After being absorbed from the gut as a rather large molecule, the gluten fragment is further modified by an enzyme called tissue transglutaminase. And here is where the genes play a role. In a person who is positive for the celiac genes HLA-DQ2 or DQ8, the tiny arms of the antigen-presenting cells have a certain shape. The modified gluten fragment fits into this HLA-DQ2 or D.Q. H shape like a key into a lock. In a person without the HLA-DQ2-DQ8 genes, the HLA arms have another shape which bind the modified gluten in a different way. When the antigen-presenting cell shows the modified gluten fragment, the T helper always recognizes gluten as harmless. The same usually happens in the majority of people with the celiac genes HLA-DQ2 or D.Q8, and the T helper cell mostly considers gluten as friend. But for unknown reasons, it sometimes takes a wrong decision and misclassifies the combination of HLA-DQ2-DQ8 and gluten as foe. If this happens, the T cell starts an inflammatory reaction to defend the body. Other immune cells, called B cells, are also involved and start to produce antibodies, not only against gluten but also against tissue transglutaminase, which is produced by the own body and is not a foreigner. Therefore, these antibodies against tissue transglutaminase are called autoantibodies. They are specific for celiac disease and very important for the diagnosis. What is the consequence of the immune reaction? The immune reaction against gluten and tissue transglutaminase will be maintained as long as gluten is ingested. The ongoing inflammation is causing more and more damage to the villi until they may even completely disappear and the intestinal lining becomes completely flat. When this happens, the surface for nutrient absorption is reduced. In combination with the ongoing inflammation, this often leads to a variety of different symptoms such as diarrhea, abdominal pain or nutrient deficiencies. The immune cells and antibodies are also traveling through the whole body and can communicate the current invasion to their colleagues in other tissues. Therefore, symptoms can occur in any part of the body. With a gluten-free diet, the immune reaction stops, The small intestine will heal and villi will be newly formed. However, because the immune system is extremely watchful and well organized, even traces of gluten re-induce the inflammation. The immune cells remember gluten as a former foe and will initiate an immune response right away. Therefore, if you are diagnosed for celiac disease, keep a strict and lifelong gluten-free diet to control your celiac disease and live happy and healthy.